Today we are going to do the last step, the final step in creating our sketchbook. And now what we're going to work on today is creating a hardcover for our book. So to start off with, some of the supplies that we're going to be needing today is, of course, our text block, which we made during steps 1 and step 2, material. We're also going to be needing cardboard to create the hardcover of your book. We also need, in our case, construction paper. So we're going to use a large construction paper to create or go over the top of our cover with. You will also be needing some glue. You're going to need the brush, a glue brush, a palette or a tray or something for your glue to go into. You're going to be needing the cutting mat, which you see down here, that protects the tabletop surface. We don't want to be cutting into the tabletop surface with our X-Acto knives because it's going to destroy the tabletop. Anytime you lay down a piece of paper and draw on that, the cutting marks are going to show through on your drawing. So we want to keep our table surface protected by using this cutting mat. You're also going to be needing a ruler. I have the clear rulers for you guys to use because it has all these centimeters and millimeter marks, and that's something that you guys are going to be needing for the measurements for the textbook cover. Also, you're going to need a pencil, and I think that's about it. So those are the materials that you guys are going to be needing for the creation of your card cover. So in the first step of creating our hardcover for our sketchbook, we need to measure how big our cover is going to be. And this actually will change depending on the size of your particular book. Some pages are a bit longer and bigger than others, so our measurements are going to change depending on what size our papers are. To assist some of those of you in reading a ruler, I'm going to show you a quick demonstration on some components or some measurements that you will see on the ruler. So I am using this clear plastic ruler for our project because it has a lot of the millimeter marks and centimeter marks, which are going to be important when you are trying to add the measurements of the cover, the hard cover to our book. So when we're looking at the ruler, and when we are trying to make these measurements, you see how there's a gap from the end of the plastic on this ruler to the 0 mark. The first thing is that you want to make sure that the 0 is lined up with the edge of your text block, not the plastic end, okay? Because that's about 1/4 of an inch right there. So you want to make sure that the 0 is lined up with the edge, okay? So that's crucial to your measurements. So when you're reading the ruler, or when you're reading the measurements, we have 0 to 1, and that's 1 inch. Okay, and then we have all these little marks in between. So we have here, when we're doing the measurements of our text block with the width, you're going to be taking 1/4 of an inch away from the spine of the book, and you're going to be adding 1/8 of an inch to the end of the text block. So we need to know what quarters and inches are. So in between here, you see these longer marks in between the inch area. These are quarters. Okay, so we have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and then 4 of them will make an inch. So we have those markings here: 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and then 1 inch. Then we need to know what 1/8 is. 1/8 is basically 1/2 of a quarter. So these longer marks, these in-between marks, this is 1/8, okay? So 1/8, quarter, here's another 1/8 mark, quarter. So you're going to go the medium-sized notch in between the quarter area, so halfway through. So to begin determining the size of our hardcover, we will begin by measuring the width of our text block. And we're going to use the width of our text block as a reference to how wide our hardcover should be. So we will begin by measuring pretty much the whole width of the text block. We are going to take away 1/4 of an inch from the spine. This is to allow some bending. When we open the hard and front cover, it'll allow it to actually bend without crunching up. So we're going to take away 1/4 of an inch from the spine of the book. So I'm going to make sure my 0 is along the edge here, and I'm going to put a notch on my spine, or on the text block at 1/4 of an inch. Then I'm going to go ahead and replace the 0 right where that 1/4 inch mark is, and I'm going to measure my text block, how wide it is from that 1/4 of an inch mark. And right now I have about 8 3/4. So that's the width from 1/4 of an inch to the edge of the text block is 8 3/4 of an inch. I need to add 1/8 of an inch to the end of my text block to allow for some overhang of the hardcover. So that will give me about 8 5/8. So 8 5/8 is going to be the measurement for the width of my cover. Now, to determine how tall my hardcover will be, I'm simply going to measure the height of my text block. So I will take my ruler and I'm going to measure the entire height of my text block, which is 12 inches. Okay, and then I'm going to add 1/8 of an inch to the overhang to the bottom of the text block, and I'd add 1/8 of an inch to the top of my text block, which is 1/4 inch total. So I have 12 inches for my text block height plus 1/4 of an inch makes the text block height, or the hardcover height, a total of 12 1/4 inch. So 8 5/8 by 12 1/4 inch is what there are going to be the dimensions of my hardcover book. So now in the second step, I am going to go ahead and draw out the measurements that I got from the text block. So my width, I need to cut at 9 3/4 of an inch. My height, I need to cut at 12 1/4 of an inch. I need to draw out those measurements on my cardboard 2 times because I need to have a front cover and a back cover. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to do the width first, personally, because it has this nice line right here, and I know that line is straight, so I'm going to go ahead and start with that line. Go ahead and measure out 9 3/4 of an inch. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead, there's one mark, measure 12 1/4 of an inch. So here, all the way down, I'm going to make a mark where the 12 inch is, and then add on 1/4 here because my ruler only goes to 12 inches. All right. Now from that mark, I'm going to measure out 9 3/4 again. There we go. Double check that measurement. See, I measured it wrong. So the rule is always double check your measurements before cutting, because once you cut, you can't go back. So 9 3/4 right here. Now connect this line and this line, or this notch and that notch together. Like that. Go ahead and that is a little bit higher up. Make sure that this one is 12 at 1/4 of an inch, that measurement. Attach my mark, that mark to that mark to make sure that it's even. All right, me just finish this line. Boom. Draw the bottom here. Connect my notches. All right, and then I know that this crease represents the other side. So once I have some of the measurements drawn out on my cardboard for the first side, I'm gonna double check to make sure that my block actually fits in there. Okay. All right, then double check to make sure it actually overhangs about 1/8 of an inch on each side, including this back edge. And then as long as I'm accurate, then I can go ahead and start doing my cutting. Okay. So you want to make sure when you're cutting the cardboard, a few things. One, you're going to go ahead and use the ruler as a nice hard edge to draw your X-Acto blade across. The second thing is when you're using your X-Acto knife, you want to make sure that you're not cutting towards yourself, right? You want to cut away from yourself. Especially with this thicker material, you have a lot less control. You want to make sure your blade is nice and sharp. If it's not, you need to get a new blade to ensure that it actually cuts through smoothly on the cardboard. So the next thing is that you want to make sure that the blade is down. So you can see where the sharpened edge is. It's that beveled edge here. You're going to want to make sure that the point is facing downwards. So it's facing this way, cutting this way. Okay. You're not cutting with the blade or that diagonal facing upwards. The diagonal faces down into the board. So I'm going to make sure that the cardboard is going the opposite direction of me, and I'm going to stand over this. It's better to be standing than to sitting. You have better leverage. Hold the ruler down with my fingers. I'm going to make sure that my fingers aren't on the side of the ruler so I don't come across and cut my finger off. So I want to make sure that my fingers are on the ruler away from the edge. I'm going to start here. I want to press down. You might not cut all the way through the cardboard on the first try. It might take you 2, maybe 3 tries. But you're going to push down and you're going to gently cut across slowly and controlled. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time. Find where the groove is and go one more time to make sure it's actually cut in there. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and do it over here. Lay it down on the line, push down, slowly cut so it's not coming towards me. I'm going to go ahead and cut it one more time. All right. Okay, so see, it went all the way through both of those times. Now I have one more cut, and that's along this crease. So I'm going to lay it down sideways. I'm going to place my ruler along this crease here. Make sure I don't cut against myself. Hold the ruler down, a lot of pressure. Cut down once, and then go ahead and cut it twice, just to make sure it went all the way through. Okay. All right, now I have this third cut right here. So let's turn the cardboard again. Place my ruler down along the line. Put pressure on it, even on both ends, so it doesn't slip. Push down hard. Push down with my X-Acto knife. And pull across once. And push down again. Slowly pull across twice. So all the sides should break off easily. If they don't, like that one doesn't, I'm going to go ahead and cut it again. Okay, so put my X-Acto knife in there. There we go. Now it should come off smoothly. If not, just go right through it again with another mark. Okay, so there's my cover, my hard cover. It's going to go ahead and fit on here. See how there's that 1/4 of an inch at the spine that we need? We need that. And then it's going to overhang a little bit on the side, on the edge. Now I don't have to do the measurements again. I could simply just take this piece that I cut out and go ahead and put it onto this cardboard here and trace around it with my pencil.